over to Venezuela, where the response that Donald Trump has in the Caribbean right now is he is taking down non-state actors who are in speedboats trying to push fentanyl up into the Gulf of America and onto Florida coast and elsewhere to try to sell these dangerous drugs in America. Now, we do know that that's been encouraged by Caracas and Maduro. And he's had a very balanced and appropriate response to that. Also, with a show of military force and making it very clear, we're not going to put up with this. But again, we need to stay away from ground wars in other countries. But the kind of pressure that Donald Trump is putting there is appropriate and, frankly, at least at present, by all accounts, is having a good effect. Listen, you had Barack Obama expending literally tens of thousands of missiles all over the world in retaliation to terrorists. And yet you've got Democrats who are haranguing the Trump administration, even to the point of trying to get military, people who are in the military, whether enlisted or in the officer ranks, to undermine the president of the United States, who's taking far less action than Barack Obama did for his entire 8 years. And in a more appropriate way than what Barack Obama was doing, he even killed an American citizen in violation of the rule of law and in violation of American law. So Donald Trump's, I think, taking the right approach there. I think it's having some effect. There's a lot more to do, and this is far from a resolution at present. But it really does start with letting those who want to traffic drugs into this country know that if you're in international waters and we can identify you as trafficking these drugs, we're taking you out. And you're a threat, so you might as well stop. And it has had some positive effect so far.
This is why I had so much respect for the former Congressman Dennis Kucinich of Ohio, because he authored those articles of impeachment against former Vice President Dick Cheney at the time for alleged war crimes. The same came about in his criticism and trying to move forward against Barack Obama when he was president, although he had endorsed him after he dropped out of that primary. So someone who was very consistent in the War Powers Act, and also that little thing we don't do anymore, declaring war on other countries via Congress. So it's good to have some consistent voices in our legislative branch. But this very topic you touch on, Jim, addressed yesterday with the border defense medals coming from those heroic individuals in Border Patrol, also with the dealing with the cartels, but also the military who are on the ground dealing with this, a medal that was offered since 1918, the end of World War I, as Secretary Hegseth pointed out yesterday. But how do we piece all of these things together for public safety in general, whether it's on the border or Brown University or what we saw in Savannah, Georgia with that horrible acid attack? I mean, that's such a quaint, lovely town, one of America's oldest and a wonderful place to visit. It's almost as if we have to have a head on a swivel watching every corner, regardless of where we are, big cities, small towns, to everything in between.
Well, we're cleaning up a mess that was created both by Barack Obama and Joe Biden when they were president. I don't know if you saw that truly inspiring speech by Tom Homan in the Oval Office yesterday, where he talked about, in his opinion, and I agree with him, Donald Trump's administration is probably the greatest presidency in our lifetime. And I think that there are many reasons to say that it is, and the border is a big part of this. I think it is a fantastic idea to provide rewards to people who are serving both in our military and in our border patrol, who are doing heroic work to clean up the problems on the border. You cannot have a free country without a border. And in our particular situation, where we throw out lavish welfare benefits to any comer, including during the Biden and Obama administration, to those who were here illegally, which is illegal in and of itself. But when you have these lavish welfare programs, you cannot have anything but a strong border. What Donald Trump has been able to accomplish with the fantastic work of Tom Homan is something that, for those who do the most heroic acts to deal with it, we ought to give them some recognition for that. And I'm all for this. I think it's a fantastic idea, something that if we can really have it well established in this process, future administrations would be able to carry on that tradition, and it would inspire a continued effort to keep the border secure against Democrats who have this tendency to want to take away any type of restraint from the border. You put this kind of precedent in place, then it's going to make some future Democrat administration that might get more lax look rather foolish.
Oh, that's so true, Jim. And we're seeing that zero gotaways, zero released within the last 6 months under the Trump administration. If my numbers are correct as well, during that same amount of time or within a calendar year, Joe Biden and his administration found releasing 687,000 plus back into the country. So these are extraordinary, unbelievable numbers that really have our law enforcement stressed out. But you've seen the recruitment has gone through the roof, whether it be with DHS to the border czar bringing up people that are focused on the border specifically, or even Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia stating that he's had such a great cooperation between the Trump administration and the Commonwealth, whereas the last administration, that did not happen, let alone the military recruits. So that's been extraordinary to watch in that process. What do you anticipate tonight for the president addressing this Hanukkah celebration amidst a very dark time? I mean, it really is a sad moment for those who are experiencing this terrible racial defamity and the cruel and evil anti-Semitism that is strong around the world.
Well, I think the current statistics here in the United States show that what we can identify as hate crimes, that anti-Semitic hate crimes are the worst by far. We have a rise of anti-Semitism in this country that is fomented by Democrat policies, by leftist political actors who have encouraged violence, both through the so-called Free Palestine protests, which were violent in and of themselves, but encouraging Hamas terrorist violence in the Middle East and trying to make Israel out to be the Middle East bad guy, when, to be candid, even though there might be some criticism here or there in the post-October 7th efforts that Israel undertook militarily, but you do not see a hue and cry and an outcry in the Middle East in general. You've got Muslim states there that are making deals with Donald Trump, that are joining the Abraham Accords, and are not providing this, as in terms of the leaders of the country, the same kind of protest against what Israel's doing. And in fact, they felt that even though they probably have private criticisms of Israel and what they were doing, they frankly think that it was a net benefit for the region, because it's the terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, and certainly the state of Iran, the current leadership in Iran, that have caused great chaos in that region that these countries don't want anymore. They want to try to do business. It's why they made deals with Donald Trump. So as President Trump honors Hanukkah celebrations tonight, which he should do, and I think is a wonderful thing that we should all be doing, even if you're not of the Jewish faith, even if you have disagreements with the Jewish faith. As a people, this is a group of people who have been treated horribly, highlighted by what just happened this week so far. And I think we need to be finding ways to build and encourage our relationships with the Jewish people who celebrate Hanukkah in this country, and thank them for what they add to what our country is as fellow citizens, as people who want a better life for themselves, who participate with all of us in what we do in this country. I think it is appropriate and a worthy effort to really provide a thankfulness to them at this time of their celebration of Hanukkah. And I think it's highly appropriate for Donald Trump to memorialize the situations that have happened right now and to encourage Americans to reinvigorate their opposition to violence and terrorism that Democrats have attempted to expand in this country. And I blame Democrats for this. You know, there's indirect and direct blame for this. They've encouraged violence in our streets. They've encouraged violent protests. They have encouraged a flood of people to come in this country illegally, many of whom are violent, even terroristic. And so I think it's an appropriate time right now to reflect upon this problem and to encourage us to move forward in greater strength to stop these problems.
No greater recent example, Jim, than you have Governor J.B. Pritzker continuing on this fascist rhetoric, literally calling everyone else that opposes him a fascist. And you have the seditious six that continue to make their ridiculous claims, and they should know better, having been veterans. We're grateful for their service, but something seemed to have changed their mentality being members of Congress. Jim Pfaff, thank you again, president of the Conservative Caucus. Always wonderful to have you on the right side of history to break down these very important issues that are seemingly growing more and more concerning day by day.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
And as we get